Mean Gene. Mean Gene. The following will be a test of the ship's whistle, the sonar alarm, the cable alarm, and the atomic attack alarm.
Hello, America, and welcome to the #1 radio station in all of Fort Myers Beach. Beach Talk Radio. Here are your hosts, Kim and Ed Ryan.
And a good evening, everybody. Welcome to Nervous Nellies. If we could have a big round of applause for Tyler and the folks here at Nervous Nellies, that'd be great. And just to give everybody a quick update or a rundown of what's going to happen tonight, we're going to have a presentation from the Millers and some other guests that they've invited. And we're also going to have questions and answers. So if you do have a question for the panel this afternoon, this evening, and you want to ask, if you could please come up to this microphone here. Everybody that's watching on Facebook and YouTube will be able to hear your questions. At the Pink Shell last week with the Seagate proposal, it kind of got out of hand when nobody could hear what was going on from the back of the room. Well, there were some people out there in the back of the room that nobody really wanted to hear, but that'll be different tonight with this crowd here. So there was a statement that London Bay put out about 15 minutes ago that I'm going to read to everybody just so you know and you're all up to date. This is from the London Bay CEO, Mark Wilson. He said, London Bay Development in Southwest Florida for the last 34 years, a leading developer has requested an indefinite continuance to their application for 6200 Estero Boulevard, the former location of the Outrigger Beach Resort. This decision allows the team adequate time to address comments in the staff report. So they will not be on the Friday LPA agenda, and that's the update as of this minute. And right now, we're going to turn it over for the presentation to Mike and Dawn Miller. Can we get a big hand for the Millers?
Thank you. Well, one of the things, I'd like to thank Tyler here at Nervous Nellies for allowing us to be here and allow us to do this meeting today. And so go over there and get some cocktails and tip the bartenders. And one thing also, Ed Ryan here, Beach Talk Radio. You know, if it wasn't for this guy, a lot of news and stuff wouldn't be hitting the beach and the community like it would be. So let's do a round of applause to both of them real quick. I think I saw a smile out of Ed's mouth. There it is. There we go. Okay. We're here for the agenda, which is no longer the agenda for Friday. And, you know, we want to have our whole goal here is we want to get a small group together in order to do questions and answers. And we've got my wife has put a beautiful presentation together on, you know, the different aspects of what what London Bay is looking for. So what we want to do is we've narrowed it down to certain things that, you know, there are potential issues, and we wanted to address it with the community. So, everyone obviously knows, okay, we have a height, traffic, parking issues. These are all common issues with any development that's going on in this community. Now, we understand that, and that's not a big focal point. Height is very important, but, you know, the traffic and parking, you know, benefits to all the room. One of the things that we're going to talk about tonight, my wife's going to get into it, is rooms versus beds. Okay, everyone goes by how many rooms there are versus how many, you know, rooms or how many beds are in these rooms, because that dictates on how many people can actually be at a complex. Okay, let me see. I'm going through my notes here. One of the things that the town always has a big thing on right now are buzzwords. Some of the buzzwords are view corridors, so people can see the beach while I guess they're driving down the street and going to get ready to rear end somebody. I don't know. Shuttles to and from the airport. You know, that's important. Golf cart rentals, bike rentals. You know, these are all buzzwords that, you know, we're going to have a bunch of bicycle parking spots and golf cart parking spots. That's all great, okay? But let's look at reality, okay? If you're coming here and you don't live on this island, you're coming here for a week, you're going to drop $500 to $900 a night for a room. You don't give a darn about $25 for parking a night at the resort where you're going. 10 to 1, you're bringing, or you're going to rent a car, or you're bringing a car anyways. Okay. Now, don't get me wrong. We want to offset that. We want anything that we can do with shuttle and everything else. But when you're dealing in a community and that you're paying that kind of money, people just don't, they're not going to take a shuttle. You know, when they get here, sure, they're going to rent a golf cart. They're going to get the bikes and cruise around. But that's not they all talk about benefit, and it really isn't, to me, a big benefit. Tonight, we're also going to discuss some of the, one thing is the canal access with the canal. Right now, they're looking at coming up our canal, which happens to be, in between Curlew and Bahia Villa, probably a 45-foot boat that's going to hold probably 35 to 75 people, and going down a 30-foot wide canal. And so, let's talk about community help here. So instead of going down my canal to Charlie's Boathouse Grill, which they have a complete right to do, what we can do is send them over to Fishtail Marina, where now, look at the community benefit. You might have in season 800 to 1,000 people rolling through this community of Santini Plaza, and girls are going to want to shop out, have a great time, and there's going to be a huge benefit. They're going to go to the restaurants. It won't be only for London Bay, okay? And if we want to help the community and the locals on this island, these big conglomerates need to give back. One thing giving back is small. Move your boat over to that area, and because if it comes down my canal, it's going to come down your canal. There'll be a point in time where they're going to say, because it'll set precedents. Next thing you know, you might have a 25-foot canal. Well, guess what? Here comes some guy at the end of the canal that's going to build, 70 condos with a restaurant, and now it's going to be continual move of people up and down your canal. One of the other things, I'm going to let my wife get here in just a minute, and I'm sure you're all going to be happy. One of the things, unfortunately, Hurricane Ian destroyed this community. I mean, there's no lack of a better term. The problem I have is, it's a phrase, I don't know if a lot of people know it or not, is never let a crisis go to waste. Okay? That is one of my biggest problems here, is because when this place got decimated, and it's almost like Hawaii, when that place got wiped out. What'd they do? These big developers rolled in and try and buy up everyone's real estate, because now it's one fast way to get a large block of real estate that you'd never be able to get to. Even though you have to pay a little extra to get it, you've got now beachfront real estate, okay? Because the people they're older, they may not want to build back. But, there's a point in time where, when they bought on this island, they knew all the codes going in, height, density, everything, when they bought the real estate. Now, I'm not saying that we have to hold it to them and leave that height restrictions and everything else. We have to evolve as a community to begin with. And if it's going to be higher and everything else, it is what it is. But, we need green space. We need, community use and things like that. And that's what we're trying to get to. And with the London Bay project, we're just trying to give a perspective on what my wife has done a fabulous job. You'll see it here in a moment, is of what the perspective is of what they would like on the beach versus what is existing here now. And with that, let's give a round of applause to my wife, Dawn Miller, who also put this whole thing together. And to give credit where credit's due, I did drive her here in a golf cart.
No, we did not drive on the sidewalk. So good evening, everybody. So tonight we started, this whole thing started out by being about London Bay. And after people started to hear that it was an important project to me, I started to hear from other communities talking about what is a problem for them. So my original point was to be here to talk about London Bay, but during that, I also want to say that I'm aware there's other projects that we all need to think about. And my biggest thing that I think I can share with everybody is we've gone through the entire process with the town on the same side as the developers. So I recognize what it is we have to do to get there. So Mike didn't mention it, but there's a reason why I printed out this giant packet right here. This is what was printed or put out to the LPA this morning. This is what they have to review for Friday's meeting. So the biggest point that I want you to hear in that is that you can't assume that those people know everything. So your voice is more important than you know, because this is a lot of verbiage and I have a hard time reading it. I'm getting better at it. But can you imagine getting that in just a few days notice? And you've got to understand how everybody feels about that. So the bigger picture tonight is that we can all learn from everybody else's situations. So with that, I'll go ahead and get started with what my PowerPoint, if you will. So I wanted to say that.
So just everybody knows, Dawn, it'll be on the screen here if you want to watch it.
Yeah,
There will be a slight delay because we're replaying the YouTube channel,
Yeah.
but you'll see all the slides.
All right. So for starters, this is my first PowerPoint I've ever done in my life. So one of the things that hit me the most when I saw the London Bay project was this picture here. And they want to give you they're giving you the idea that their property, which is on the far left, that 17-story building is the same height as, say, Island Winds or Point Estero. They're making it look much tinier. So I decided that, you know, everybody needed to see this for what it really is. So if you could move to the next one. I wasn't able to find actual buildings that I could use, so sorry, they're humans. But when you see this, you'll see I used all right, there it is. Sorry, I know I'm behind. So I want you to look at the London Bay project. So they're at 200 feet. And then go down. I have a half a mile to the south where I looked at each of the buildings and was able to kind of put that together. So they're giving you the impression that their height is the same, but you can see it's not. And right next door to them, see the little blue guy? Those are homes right there. So this is the impact that this is where I believe that if you're forced into a project, you can use these kind of visuals for the town council or the LPA to see these things where it's being, there's a deception. So moving on to the next one, there's that same London Bay building, and 1.2 miles north, I went and looked for all the properties in comparison. So you have this big giant 200 foot building and all these little homes. And then you got the tallest one is 70-foot building down there. So they're telling you that it is of the same height and, you know, it's the south end and you should have the high rises, but they're not in amongst those by no means. Also, somewhere in the middle is also the Sandpiper. So that'll be coming in the future too. I imagine they'll want something like that. So my next slide will show you all the properties on the south end and the half mile that they referenced in their project. So the London Bay project is 3.5 acres, right? So you can see there's not much on there, but I'm going to show you what their density looks like here in a minute. Most of the other properties, they've got a lot of parking, a lot of green space around them. Obviously, right now, we know that these properties and these renderings, which I pulled off of Google, might not be quite that accurate. We did lose all of our plantings, but they'll come back. There'll be green space around there. But you can see there's a lot of space around them. It's not filled with dense buildings. So moving on to the next one, I pulled this from London Bay's LPA packet, and this shows you where the buildings will be on their property. So there's a little bit of green there. I'm going to give them that, but there's not a lot. So if you're looking off of Estero Boulevard, the main building on the front, that's going to be 12 stories there. So that's a decently tall building right up there. And in fact, it's taller than anything, I would say, for at least a quarter of a mile around there. It's taller than all of that. And that's just that section. Then you go to the L shape that goes towards the beach, and that also is another 12-story building. And then it steps down right in the front, and then off to the left is another step down. The far buildings on the other side of the beach are 17 stories, 15 stories, another 15-story, and a 13-story building. And then that whole front white section is their second, I'm assuming, pool, because they called it a podium. They also said they have an event terrace in there. So I'll get onto that here in a minute, but you can see the density of this project where I just showed you in the other slide that that the other properties do not have the density that this one does. So I'll take you to the next slide, and it will show you how it's got a better, like more of the footprint of what you're going to see. So all that front white space is a building, probably their pool or something like that. But you can see there's a lot of concrete. Then I'll talk about this park that they're calling the Lanier Park down the side. And they're calling it also a public benefit. That particular piece of property, all right, okay, Lanier Park. They're going to have some, plantings and everything else. Fabulous, right? And I do like that. I'm not going to complain. But it's also for the benefit of the property on the other side, which is the Charlie's Boathouse that they purchased. So I'll go on to tell you about what they're asking there. Oh, skip the next one. We'll go on. So there, I moved upon myself, but yeah, you know what? I'll go back. We'll get to that. Go back to that. We'll talk about it. There's their density. That shows you the buildings in their rendering. And I'm sorry, they're in really poor shape, as I had to get those off of the Beach Talk Radio show that they did. So I had to screenshot that and print it out. But that's the density of the buildings that they're asking for. So again, the L shape is 12 stories. The very front of that one has an additional floor for their rooftop bar. And then a step down to the 3 stories, and then 17, 15, 15, and 13 over on the right. So you can see the density and everything there. I'm not sure what the setback is, and I haven't had time to read the package for today, but so moving on, I want to talk about what's inside that building. They have, I'm going to have to read down here. They have 100 rooms, 50 rentable condos, likely 2 or 3 bedrooms each, 46 condos, which are likely 4 bedrooms each. And most hotels each room needs 1 parking space. A rentable condo would need 2 probably, and or a car and a golf cart, still 2 spots. The condos, those folks that are going to live there, they're going to have 2 cars, maybe also a golf cart. They're going to need a lot of parking space. What Mark gave on his presentation was that he was going to have 300 parking spaces plus or minus. I don't hear an actual answer there. So my question is, they've got, okay, I also didn't mention they've got a restaurant. Where did I put that information? But I'll get back, I can get back to it. But at any rate, they do not have enough parking. So my thought is that they're going to drive down that canal and bring their staff there too. So I'm showing you now a rendering of, in the blue square is where the Outrigger location is. Across the street, you'll see the red arrow. That's Bahia Via. And while that's where I live. It's a very narrow canal that they're wanting to use to bring not only a 500-acre facility that's in Estero with 1,000 residences. They're wanting to come down that canal. And, Mike and I have continuously said that the marina would be a great place for them to go. And I know that there are people against that too. So I understand. But in part of my presentation, I was showing that, it's a 2-minute walk from that area, but there could be another way. But they do not have ample parking at this place. And they're not being completely honest with that. So I took, on the next one, I took a portion of the island and mapped out 500 acres with Google Maps. That's the size of the community that they want to bring onto our island with no public benefit to the residents. So imagine that size of a property, so 1,000 residents, and they want to bring them by boat and into their golf or their beach club. There'll be no benefit if they're just coming down a canal and going in there. It's just strictly for Estero residents to have a beach club. So, so that's the big part of that. I'm going to have to go back and find about all the restaurants and the seating and everything else. I'm missing that portion, and maybe I can get one of my co-hosts to come up and speak for a few minutes while I find that. But the other thing that I want to tell you is that we can all use our time together to join, to share, and when you're going to present in front of the town, use visuals, give something that they have to look at, because the council members and the LPA, you can't assume they know everything. And I personally know that they don't. So I always bring stuff to their attention. Greg, would you like to come up and speak a little?
Thank you. My name is Greg Skasny. I'm a resident, full-time resident, only home here on Fort Myers Beach. Full disclosure, I am running for town council. This is not meant to be a campaign speech at all, but the reason I'm running is I'm extremely concerned from our island and what's happening with developments like this. I'm going to correct one thing Mike said. So Mike said that Ian destroyed our community, and I'm going to disagree with that. Ian destroyed the buildings in our community. They did not destroy our community. This place, thank you. Thank you, sir. This place is like none other. I've lived in many, many places in my life, all over Southwest Florida, Naples, Cape Coral, Estero. I've been here for almost 20 years. This island is extremely special. The people on this island are extremely special. I went to the Seagate meeting, and I know we're talking about London Bay, but Matt, who is the CEO of Seagate, is a very nice gentleman, but he made a statement that we incorporated because of density, and that's only half true. Our town incorporated to keep high rises and density, right? So height and density are very, very important. What people need to realize is that when a company comes in and they want to deviate from what's allowed by our community standards, so what's allowed by our LDC and our comp plan, they get those things from us. They get it from us residents. Our town exists because we have residents, and that's not an elitist thing to say, but if we don't have residents, we don't have a need for a town government. Right? That's bad for our island, right? We need local control to be able to have the say of what happens in our island. So when they come in and they ask for these things, right, they're asking it of you and me, and the benefit they give back should be proportional to the ask. I'm going to ask you, what is a proportional benefit for a building that is, by my calculations from the ground, 220 feet 1 inch? Is a massive structure, right? It's a 17-foot structure with these are massive developments on a 7-mile island that, to be brutally honest, we don't have the infrastructure for. It's an environmentally critical area. When Margaritaville was done, right, they're 3 stories above flood. They had a hard time getting water pressure up to the top of theirs. What are they going to do when they build 17-story towers over there, right? So it's going to stress and I understand we're talking about impact fees and things like that, but we are stressing, we're a 7-mile island. That's it. We have a very limited resources on this island. So obviously I'm not for these type of developments. I don't think they're appropriate for my island. I don't think the ask is appropriate. I think to come in and ask for, when they have a height of 35 feet, to come and ask for 200 feet is egregious. I just do. I think that the best way that we can counter this is not, again, that's the reason that I chose to run for council, is because I think that people need to hear that. But in reality, it's really not about me. It's about everybody. If you guys want to change this, you have to get the word out. You need to email the council members. You just send them letters. Call them. I don't care. Whatever you need to do. Email the LPA members. You have to get involved. You have to let them know that this is not acceptable to you as residents. You vote them in, right? You vote council in, council then appoints the LPA members. You have to let your voice be heard. Let them know how you feel. Don't be shy about it. There's nothing, they're not going to bite. You know, they're all very nice people. But let your voice be heard. That's what a government is about. Your representative government is about having your voice heard, right? So get involved. If you don't like to see what's here, get involved. Write letters. If you don't know who to send it to, GregSkasny@gmail.com. Email me. I'll help you. No problem. My number 239-314-6997. Call me. I'll help you. I'll do whatever I can to make sure that your voices are heard, because that's what's important, right? If you want to keep our island the way that it is, you know, again, we're not going to get back to, we're not going to be able to rebuild the funky beach cottages and stuff. I had one. I lost it. Sucks. But we don't have to give in to this, right? And thank you. The very last thing I'll say is don't be afraid. And what I mean by that is a lot of people would like to lead by fear. They're afraid that the island will not be rebuilt. It's bullshit. Sorry, I don't mean to swear, but it is. This is a very desirable place. This is paradise. People want to come here. Just look at last season. This place was still, we're still in very much recovery mode. There's a lot of people here during season. The beach will be rebuilt. It's nothing to be afraid of. We don't have to go, oh my God, here, build this or that. It's going to sit empty forever. You know, think about the benefit that's going to come to you. I name a benefit to a resident from this. How does it affect your life? They're going to say what? Right, they paid $35 million for that property. They're chipping in pretty good tax revenue for that, right? That we get 6% of, right? That's one benefit, right? So, and I'll give them that. That's perfectly fine. But is that tax revenue worth what they want to do to our island, right? I agree. That's what I agree with. So I really appreciate Don and Mike doing this. I really appreciate them giving me time to speak. If you have questions for me, I'm here. I'll be here. You know, happy to talk. But I will hand it back to whoever, or if people want to ask questions. So thank you.
Bill? Give it a round of applause right here. All right. Thanks, Greg. Now we got Bill Veach.
Hi, everybody. Thanks, Greg. That was really good. Greg and I were, a while ago, we thought we wouldn't agree about anything. We're finding that's quite a bit different. This is a really interesting little prop here, because this project is the tip of the iceberg. Now, it's easy for people when you have something going up in your backyard to have it as a call to action. But the reality is we're a very small island. We're long and we're skinny. We still have a strong community. I totally agree with what Greg said. Very tight-knit community. Anything that happens on the island affects the entire island. And so when I look at this project, I'm also thinking about the Edison Beach House, about the Lahaina, about all these other properties that are similar size. Red Coconut, Gulf, what is the one next to Red Coconut there? Yeah, Gulfview. All these are massive projects, or massive properties. And if you do this on all those properties, just imagine the effect for everybody, just for absolutely everybody. And if we have a lot of traffic, who is going to be really detrimentally affected by that? It's going to be the residents, because we're the ones who have to go somewhere, have to go to work, have to go somewhere. And it's going to be the businesses, because it can be harder and harder to get people to fight that traffic, to come in and work for you, or you're going to have to pay a premium on the salaries. So everything that happens, really everybody's eyes should be open for the next project and the project after that. Right now, it seems like things on the island are frozen, and they're not frozen because the council is not generous enough with these additional densities. They're frozen because everyone's waiting to see what's going to happen. There's people who bought a property before the storm for $750,000. Now they want 2.5, because they're thinking that that's going to be a big development. They'll put a lot on there, and they want to capitalize. So it isn't the people even who are building who are getting the benefit. It's the people who are sitting on the land. Throughout this island, we have this boulevard zoning district, which is meant to be commercial. It was organic. It grew up naturally being commercial. It's not being redeveloped. just with simple commercial, because a lot of them are thinking, I'm going to make a lot of money to sell this land to a developer who's going to put a tower on it. So the community is strong. I think I don't want to go on for too long, but I'll just say that, we need to redevelop. There's going to be some things that are not going to be like they were. It's amazing the creativity and resiliency of the residents of this island and how they're rebuilding. I look at a lot of the beach cottages are gone. People are rebuilding cottages too, and they're just putting them up on stilts. There's some people who rebuilt their houses the way they were. There still are communities full of small houses, and that is the core of our residents. And I think that no matter where you live, even if you're on a condo down in Bay Beach Lane, where you feel you're pretty protected from all this, you still have to get in your car and you have to drive somewhere. If you want to go downtown for dinner, you're not going to be able to. So I think that every project affects every one of us. This is a pretty small boat, this island. And a lot of us know each other. And I think it's important to make sure that you fight the first fights as much as you can to make sure that you don't lose all the others and lose the war. So, and thanks a lot, guys. Good job.
So I want to thank everybody for coming out. I also want to say, sorry, I got frustrated in the middle of kind of lost my mind, but I think you get the gist of why we're here. And I do appreciate the two of you for speaking, because you are so much more eloquent at putting this out there. But there's always strength in numbers, and everybody needs to stay together, keep communicating and working together to get our voices heard. So I'll let Mike finish up.
All right. Yeah, like Don said, but the thing about it is, we're all one community, and you've seen the presentation that we've put together, and what we want, and the reason why we're here today is, we want the community's input on, what we can do to change our and make additions to our presentation, so we can better this presentation. So when a London Bay does come up to the LPA, or some other monster development on the beach wants to build a 400 foot high rise, that we have this already in place. We can modify it and say, look, this just isn't going to work. Do we want to be Fort Myers Beach, or do we want to be the new Naples? I think that's what it comes down to. And, well, at the town council meeting, maybe 6-7 months ago, they had someone from LIPA that was there, and they were explaining the tax increases of Naples, I don't know, I'm going to make some of these numbers up. They're in the single digits. Naples, like 5%, Fort Myers, 6%, and a bunch of other places. And they came to Fort Myers Beach. Fort Myers Beach property taxes are increasing in 2024, which is 2024 now, 43.35%. That is the increase for our property taxes.
Just not the property taxes. The taxes aren't going up that much. The property values.
Property
Property
values.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't want
values.
people freaking out thinking
Yeah,
that taxes
sorry.
are going up 47%.
I meant values. So based on that, your property taxes are increasing accordingly, unless you had it homesteaded. So, and it's only going to go up from there. And, if we turn this into the new Naples, what's going to happen? It's going to get the local community out, and these are going to be all bed and breakfasts and high rises and stuff like that. We've been coming down here. My wife dragged me down here probably 30 years ago. We finally broke down and bought on the island in, I believe, March of 18. Since then, we acquired the beached whale for a whole 3.5 months before the hurricane destroyed it. It is what it is. We planted our seeds here. We sold our house in Ohio. We're here for the long run, and I know we have to rebuild, and that is inevitable, and we all understand that. But let's rebuild and reason. Okay. I'm not saying that we have to stay to the height limit today, but we don't need to set a precedence for 200 feet tomorrow. That's something we don't need to do. I just want, that's why we're here, just to get the community input, what we can do. So we have, lack of a better term, guns a-blazing when they go to the LPA, and we can sit there and explain to everybody going, hey, look, here is the situation. And one of the things, like I always say, is, I don't like going to a place and have a bitch session without a solution. This is one of the things we want to work on, is what can we do to advise them? Hey, okay, 17 isn't going to work. Hey, but 9 might. We don't know. No one knows. But as a community, we could all get together and push it at where, and if you get some more green space, move the stuff around so you don't have 12 stories next to the street. Have 12 stories up against or 9 stories up against the ocean, and then have it tiered down so it doesn't look like you're, in a massive canyon of a commercial building. So, that's it. Does anyone have any questions?
And if you have questions, there's a microphone right here.
microphone
So
right up
everybody,
here.
or if you want to make a statement or
Yeah.
come up,
Statement,
please
comments.
please come up to the microphone. You can adjust it, moving up and down. We just want the people that are watching to be able to hear the question.
My name's Nancy Walker. I'll just rip it off. I live on Ibis Street. First thing we need to do is vote. We need to know which council members running are for or against this. That's my main question. Are you for this or against it? That's who I'm going to vote for. Anybody that's against it. Number 2, we need to organize maybe a social media site. I know Captains for Clean Water and Friends of the Everglades, whenever there's upcoming legislation, there's a form letter. It's so easy. I just click on it and they mail it to everybody that like Beach Talk Radio had listed. He had all the contacts listed and their email. It was so easy to do, and we need to make it easy for people. And the other thing is, I think our membership on the council, I know it is on the council, but committees and advisory boards needs to be registered voters in this town.
They are changing that ordinance to, if I remember right, they are changing that ordinance. I don't know, Jim, you want to jump in there? Because I know you're going to be affected by it. They are changing the ordinance to registered voters. I think it was supposed to come up Monday, but it's
Even
going to be
for,
at the next meeting.
even for advisory.
All the committees, yeah.
And advisory.
Yes.
Okay, good. They're ahead of me. But definitely a social media site where we can organize, because that's what we need to do.
So on top of that, I just have to say, we need a motto. We need signs. We need to picket. We need to be there, out there, instead of just having this one little cozy meeting, we need to get out on Estero Boulevard. We need to get and make some noise, instead of just being quiet, because we're all very respectful. We're good people, but we need to make more of an effort. I don't know, to just be louder.
Come on down if you want to speak. And by the way, there is an LPA member here. If you want to talk to him after the meeting, raise your hand, Jim. A brand new LPA member, and he's a registered voter too.
Hey, I'm Kevin Sullivan. I'm associated with the woman that just talked. We've owned here 20 years, and we've lived here as residents since 2019 on Bay Beach Lane. I will, after the Meyerside decision, I wrote 3 of the council members and expressed some dismay that we gave a lot of density without a lot of public benefit outside of the retail, I thought. And they all responded and provided answers. Then I followed up with 3 of them over the time and talked about London Bay. So I can tell you, back to Nancy's point, the 2 South Side councilors are all in on London Bay. One of them, I'd rather not say, but the South Siders, there's only 2 South Siders. And one of them is vehement that we needed a restaurant on the beach. We need more restaurants, and we need to revitalize the south end of the island. Well, we're going to have Santini Plaza. They'll start opening perhaps in October, and then it'll dwindle out for probably more than a year. But London Bay will take 5 years, so or longer. And we don't need to give away density, mostly density. I don't think we probably need to give away that kind of height just for the benefit of a restaurant. One of the counselors told me, and which is what I've always believed all along, we'll never get a beach bar approved in its former location at that London Bay location. They'll never be able to get it. And so, when they sell the outrigger, beach bar, I'm not sure that they can make it happen because there's a lot of state and federal agencies involved in that. So we've got 2 counselors that are all in. We have a Mid-Island counselor that is not all in. He's against it as it stands. And then we have 2 northern counselors, North Island counselors, who we believe are pretty much okay with it. So the only reason I'm mentioning these things, and I like all these people. I mean, 2 of them are friends of mine, is that if this thing gets by the LPA, it's going to get approved by the council. And by the way, it can fail at the LPA, and then they can go directly to the council and get it approved. So I think my wife had a brilliant idea. We really do need to probably picket out in front of the LPA to make a little bit of a scene for Beach Talk Radio and Wink TV and the others, because we need to put pressure on the LPA, and they've held the line much more than our counselors have. And we need to stop this right there at the LPA, because if it gets past the LPA, it'll get passed at the council. So thanks for your time. Sorry it takes so long.
Robin Capella, I'm also on Bay Beach. I'd like to change just a little bit. I'd like to talk about negative public benefit. Well, I say that because with outriggers, we could sit on the beach. London Bay's not going to let us, just like Margaritaville doesn't let us. So I think when we go to the LPA or to the thing, we need to talk about the negative public benefit that we're losing. Just a thought.
So I want to speak on behalf, taking it back to more how it's going to impact Bahia Villa and Curlew. I know I see a few Bahia Villa residents in here. I don't know Curlew, so we got a few who it's going to directly.
Can you tell everybody who you are? So they know?
My name is Joe Daniels. My father owns on Bahia Villa. I do not own, but I lived there for some time, been vacationing there for many years. So I know kind of how the traffic flow is of boating. I've boated in and out of there myself. So I want to talk about the canal first. Mike mentioned that the canal width is roughly 30 foot in that area. To my knowledge, I have not researched this. To my knowledge, each road, both Bahia Villa and Curlew, has rights to 25% of that canal. And the center 50% is, yes, a use of passage. Meaning, yes, London Bay, whoever builds at the end, buys the end again, whatever, they have rights to that 50% passage. So say they are bringing a vessel of the size that we're hearing, that means that they've only got 15 foot wide. A vessel of that size is going to have a beam of at least 10 to 11 foot. So that's leaving a very narrow room for air without affecting the boats on the canal, docks on the canal, seawalls, etc. So there's not a lot of room to passage, and there would be zero room to pass in the canal. Now there is some pull offs that you can get by if you got an 8-foot beam, but that's going to mean we're going to have to sit at our dock and wait for something to pass. As far as the building heights and proposals that they have at the end of the road there, Charlie's and the Outrigger property, I don't support the heights. I don't think anybody here supports the heights of it. Do we need to be built back in one aspect or another? Yes, we do. We need something. That doesn't mean we need a 17-story high rise all over the place with people that aren't going to be spending it elsewhere on the island, that are only going to be staying right there in that location. We all want the Outrigger back. Who in here doesn't want the Outrigger back? We all want the Outrigger. We all want Charlie's. That's what we all want. We're not going to get that exact thing, but hopefully we can get something similar to it. Hopefully we can get a beach bar. We can get a tiki hut. Everybody else also wants Pinchers back. You know, all of the South Side bars that we had, the tiki huts on the beach, we want back. If this company wanted to work with the residents on the South Side, then they would propose something like that. They wouldn't be proposing 200-foot buildings. They would propose something a little bit smaller that fits the area because of the parking issue that you guys brought up. And you made an excellent point that there's not even enough room for employee parking of a structure like that. You know, how many staff members does a company like that have? There's not even going to be enough parking for them. So they're all going to be chartered right down our canal every single day, in and out. There's a few other things I wanted to touch on. One benefit, a lady asked, you know, what benefits does a structure like that have? It doesn't need to be a 17-story structure, but structures do give protection to the smaller houses in a hurricane. Two of my neighbors here gave my father's house protection, and he's in a wood structure that survived. They do block wind, they do block waves, they do block rising seas, so that it's not pushing it off of the foundation. So something up there would give protection and would give a benefit to us, but it doesn't need to be 17 stories. We're not going to get a 17-story wave. So that's my touch on Bahia Villa, bringing it back to the Bahia Villa view.
So if anybody came late, I don't know if you heard, London Bay pulled the project from the LPA this Friday. They're not on the agenda, which means the agenda will be 6 hours less than it would have been if that packet was presented. So he said he's tabled it indefinitely so that he can address the staff comments. So that will not be on the agenda. And, you know, the LPA, just like the town council, you get 3 minutes to speak. Everybody is allowed to speak for that 3 minutes on every project. And you, instead of picketing, maybe public comment or maybe both. So,
yeah, I agree. That's one of the things. That's one of the reasons why we're here today too, is that, you know, we've got a beautiful presentation. We want to add more to it for when London Bay does come back to the table. But what we also, you know, we're here to, you know, rally some troops here that, you know, we can't get. My wife and I can't get this presentation done in 6 minutes, and with the more comments that we get from you guys tonight, we're going to add to our presentation. So we might need 5, 6, 7 people that basically we just step in and go right where you left off and go, and we just keep going. Just keep the book right there. Let's just keep going.
I am Carolyn McCowan. I live in Pelican Watch down the beach across from the old town hall location. And I'm very reassured by what I'm hearing in terms of community interest in projects. And we are about to face having a food truck court park right under, and I do mean literally, under our nose. We have 2 back stacks in our condo. And in one area, it's 42 feet, 42 steps, or like 100 feet to a boundary. The other boundary runs along our pool. But long story short, won't get into all that. We are also going to need support. And I'm not sure we need a food truck court park at 2,500. We're not against the development that any investor has a right to develop something on his property. However, this is not a fit for a residential area, Cottage Street, Chapel Street, where residents have lived for 30 years, 40 years, 50 years, whatever. And they came in and bought up lots really quickly after the wooden structures were destroyed. For all these years, we've had a residential area close to the boulevard. Mucky Duck was there. Holmes House was there. Wasn't a problem. But anyway, this is refreshing, and I'm sure that we'll be looking for and appreciating support when our case comes to LPA. So thanks for the tips.
And that, well, and Mike, that's right across the street from the old town hall, where the property is, not the new town hall that is going to be in the big green building. And the developer, from what I understand, the developer did say if he ever got it approved, he wasn't going to be permanent. He was going to take it down after but I mean,
It's not.
I'm just saying, I'm just telling you what he said. I'm not saying I believed it. I'm just telling you what he said. You can go ahead right back up. Yep.
In the original proposal, he did use the word interim 21 times. And then, I forgot to tell you, Pelican Watch was never mentioned in the proposal. We have 48 units, and it's been since 1981. And he also, on the rendering, Pelican Watch was a smudge, just a little smudge on the corner.
I'd like to make a comment. One of the things about the what you're talking about, the food truck court, is and I agree with her 100%. One of the things is the food trucks came on this island as a temporary basis to help feed people and feed the community and the workers on the island. I'm building, my wife and I are building an $8 million structure for the whale. Okay. By the time we're done, and that doesn't include the land we purchased or anything else. Okay. If I'm going to sit here and build the superstructure, it would be crazy for me. I could stop now, put a parking lot in, put a food truck there, and rent 35, 40 parking spaces out at $20 an hour or $20 a day, turn them over 2.5 times. And I spilt my drink. It's okay. It was empty. Yeah. Supposed to be beach parking and stuff like that. But, I believe the town needs to make a decision of, and I know things are getting off slow on the rebuilding process, and especially, breaking ground on new projects. But I think the town just needs to sit down, collectively get together and say, do we want food trucks permanently on this island? And from there, then they need to make a decision. Food trucks are great for their time on this island. Personally, I don't feel that they need to be a permanent structure. Yeah.
Anyway, I made my point. Thanks.
Yep. Well, thank you.
I just, I don't have like a.
Please introduce yourself.
All right, Tom Torson, resident Fort Myers Beach. I got a PhD in development on Fort Myers Beach the hard way. I think this December I will be a 10-year graduate of that school. So, at any rate, is that good enough? Without direct opinions on projects, I just want to say that the island has some interesting characteristics. We are very unusual on the west coast of Florida. Other than Clearwater Beach, that zone on the beach, there's not much commercial zoning on the beach side. You look at Naples, you look at Bonita, you look at Marco, there's very limited. And we have some really unique commercial zoning. And I think that it is a really good thing. I think that it's isolated. I think that it allows for community throughout most of the island and commercial to intervene and be something different than those other areas I identified. God bless Sanibel. I could never live there. It just wouldn't be my style. It's sleepy. And it's really, really nice. And I don't mean anything demeaning by that comment. Naples is not my lifestyle. Maybe I could afford to live there, maybe I couldn't, but it's not my place either. And I think that we're a very unique community with a lot of positive things that make us unique. We don't wear wealth on our shirt sleeve. Everybody just kind of gets along with each other and really is very social. But that's not. It's a prelude to the point that I'd like to make. And the point I'd like to make is that there's very few voters in this community, registered voters, and it's shrinking. And I don't have the statistics, and like Mike, I'm going to make up some numbers. And Ed, you maybe know the numbers and you could backfill, but it's shrunk. It's since I came here in 91, and it's just continued to shrink. And that means a few things, that fewer people are going to determine where this island goes. Yes, the town council is the ultimate decision maker on project by project. There is an election coming up, and you talk about, I think this maybe is a lot about London Bay and the scale of that, and where does that lead us going forwards on this island? But and that probably will come forth before the election. But your voice in what you think this island should be for the people that have a vote will influence what happens before the election. That's my big point. Second point is how you do vote will impact what happens long term. So I don't know how many people in this room are voting people. And I don't mean to eliminate input from people that aren't. And I'm just trying to point out a legal statistical fact that the only people that can really direct what happens on this island are the people that have a vote. It's just the way the process works.
So Tom, can I ask you a question? Being that we have you here, I don't mean to put you on the spot or anything. I would be the last person to try and put anyone on the spot, but you've been through the development. You've seen many councils. Do you think that the way the council is made up now, the outrigger proposal would get approved, the Seagate proposal as presented now, as everybody's seen it, with this council the way it is made up now, would it pass? Would they pass?
Again, I'm going to show my age. 10 years in the PhD process on Fort Myers Beach. And there's people I could name drop here that maybe people in this room don't even know because of 10 years ago when I really got going on this. And one of the people that told me, he was a counselor and then a mayor and then a county commissioner. And he said, Tom, the only thing you can count on, and he lived here for a number of decades, boat captain, so on and so forth. And he said, the thing you can count on is on Fort Myers Beach is the pendulum swings and does extremes. It just goes one way or the other. And honestly, after we came forth and I got my ass handed to me on the Grand Resorts project, the pendulum swung and it got very, very ultra conservative. Now it's ultra aggressive as far as growth, and it swings. That's all I can say. Did I answer your question?
I think I heard you say yes in a roundabout way. Is that the way you feel right now? The other question I had for you, being that you were part of it, one time we had Anita on the show, the former mayor, LPA chair, and I asked her if she thought public benefit. She might think differently now. She thinks if she thought public benefit should be part of the decision process, and she said no. Do you think public benefit should be part of the decision process for the LPA and the town council or not?
On a project by project basis, I do think there is significant merit to that, but that's subjective. It's up to, there again, it's going to depend upon who you put in office. You got to feel good about who you put in office. It really gets down to that. It's express yourself now, who you're going to support in the upcoming election. It's a decision. I think it used to be 800 plus votes. 800 votes maybe would assure that, somebody would be appointed to council. I don't know what it's down to now. It might be 450. It might be 480 votes. I mean, it's not many of us that are going to determine the composition of what our island is going to be going forward. There's not many of us, but get your word out what you want it to be. That's all. I'm not here promoting what I want it to be. I'm here. I live here because I love what it's been. I would like it not to be, something other than what it's been. I'll say that much. But like Greg said, it's going to be different. It's just going to be different because even if you didn't do a comp plan amendment, lobotomy that's going on right now, even if you didn't do that and it was just static and you redeveloped this island, it would be probably 50% or 75% more density than it was before Ian. If you changed nothing in the comp plan, that would happen on its own. It would happen. And I think too that another comment that is made, and again, I'm not trying to express opinion here. I'm just trying to state what I know from getting my PhD here and getting spanked a number of times pretty hard. But, it's just, I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry.
Well, a last question, then I'll let you go. If somebody gets approved for 17 stories or something above what you have, will you come back and ask for more?
I'm tired.
I don't hear a yes or a no. It sounds like a no.
We won't do anything crazy.
Did you bring free pool passes for everyone in attendance today, or? Just kidding, Tom. We're just kidding.
Thank you. I don't know if I added anything, but I think
always.
it's up to us who have votes, and that's really why I came up here. It's up to us who have votes, and I think that you can express yourself, the direction you want the island to go before the election, and I think it'll impact what happens on decisions before the election. Obviously, it will impact decisions that happen after the election. So that's my point.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
And two quick things. Anita is watching, and we all have great respect for Anita. She said public benefit is subjective. A benefit to me might not be the same to you, and that's the problem. By the way, speaking of before Ellen speaks, we are having 3 town council forums. The first one is going to be here on September 12th. So if you want to see all the 4 candidates, the candidate forum will be here at Thursday night, September 12th, in this very spot at 5:30. So you'll be able to question all 4 candidates. And now the great Ellen Vaughn, everybody.
So I'm very happy to follow Tom because I was here while he was getting his PhD and helped participate in some of the activities. We found a group, Leah Gregg is here, who was the implementer behind 5 Decide, which we formed in order to push forward on what became Margaritaville when it was TPI. And I just want to say that the one thing that Tom did is Tom evolved his project. He said he got his butt kicked, and he held, if I recall, about 1.5 years worth of workshops with people in the town asking what they wanted. So therefore, I'm going to suggest that we turn this around and we go to London Bay and say, will you meet with residents of the town, people that care a lot about this town, wanting to retain being a town, being a community, being a place where people want and not be somewhere else. We want to be this town. Would they agree to meet with us and talk about what things are possible? Thank you.
Thanks, Ellen. Mike?
I actually think that's a very good idea. And what we do is we have a community meeting with London Bay, and we just make a point. Okay, it's not a bitch session. It's going to be a community session. Here's what we would like to see, and make it a positive experience instead of a negative experience for London Bay. And then they're more apt to be able to come to the table and go, you know what, I'd love to hear what you guys want. But and I understand these developers, they come in here and they just get castrated. I mean, people just yelling and screaming like what happened the other day, and it gets old for them. And I can appreciate that, and I'm doing devil's advocate on their side, but they come to the table and say, hey, bring me your input, not your negativity, or if you have something that you don't like, don't come here with your bitch session. Come here with a solution as well. And I think that's what needs to happen.
Hello, my name is Tyler Spradling. I live at 127 Curlew. So obviously this project affects us directly. I think in all the development presentations they give, they haven't talked about Charlie's and what they're going to do. So I think it's important. I know they don't have to give a concrete answer, but saying what kind of density they're going to do there, because they're using the pre-Ian densities of including Charlie's and saying, this is what we're doing after. So I think that's important. I've also lived here for 30 years. I was a freshman in high school for Hurricane Charlie. Property owning for Ian, it was much more fun being a high school student for Hurricane Charlie than a property owning now. But as a young property owner on Fort Myers Beach, growing a family, I think to see the town council step up for the code and ordinances we have is important to someone that might want to get involved later in life. And if you just roll over and don't step up for the community, it's kind of discouraging. So I think that's important. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Leah Gregg.
Hi, Ed. So first, I just want to thank you, Don and Mike, for bringing us together as a community, because I think it's so important. We spoke earlier about, quite frankly, I know your concern is several things, including, a big boat going down your canal every day, which I could totally get that. That has no effect on me. However, I have an issue with Moss Marina possibly wanting to make my street on Bonita Street their own private delivery entrance for trash trucks, recycle trucks. Hopefully they're going to make that a dead end street. But I think if we rally together as a community and we make sure that we have smart, planned out development, and to your point, we don't want to rush it. I mean, we want to make sure that the development is occurring, but we also want to make sure it's very smart and it's what's best for our island. And I also find it very conspicuous that Moss Marina dropped out at the last minute. If you remember, they were supposed to have a meeting on Monday and they literally dropped out Sunday night. Now these guys dropped out at kind of the last minute as well. I'm sure LPA is happy they have more time to review that. But the bottom line is I find it interesting that it's right before an election. So, and I know there's been, Ed, I think it was some parts of your interviews. In fact, I think you asked some of the council members, if you vote for this, do you think you're going to get reelected, meaning Moss Marina? And I think you even said you will not get elected if you vote for this. So I thought that was a very good point. And then all of a sudden, Moss Marina literally dropped out. And now you've got London Bay dropping out. So I also have to question some of the public benefits. I know Councilman Adderhall kind of brought this to the forefront. And I think it's such a slippery slope and it's extremely subjective. So a public benefit could be a boat going up and down your canal to some, but it's a complete detriment to you. And I think we have to understand as a group what might not affect me or what might not affect you. As a community, it affects all of us. Because anytime you're putting a resident, a homeowner in a negative position, I think we all need to rally together because we are a small island. And unfortunately, like I know Chris is back there, he lives on 3rd. And when him and I and a few others go in and we speak, I mean, literally there's only 3 people that own, there's only 3 homes on Bonita Street. That's it. So even if 2 people go, that's 66% of the population, but still they look at it as it's only 2 people. Not many people showed up. So I think that's important. And I also think we need to take into consideration all of the land usage change that a lot of these developers are requesting. For example, Moss Marina. Right now, that's considered a residential marina. And they want to change it to residential commercial. So I actually met with Scott Safford. I think he was the only one that I met with regard to asking him, hey, if this gets approved, is every single street at risk for a business coming in there where they could reclassify the land usage from, in this case, it's residential marina to residential business? Because if that's the case, every one of us is at risk for having a business right in our backyard. So I would just continue to say, let's stick together. I applaud you guys for bringing this forward. The first thing I came in, I said to Dawn, I'm here to support you. I ask you to support me perhaps down the road. So thank you. And thank you all for being here. And I think as a team, as a group, we could definitely make sure it's controlled, smart development. So thank you guys.
Anybody else? And folks, I think if you showed up to the town council meetings and used public comment, or went to the LPA meetings and used public comment, the council does seem to listen. I think your input on the Moss Marina project I felt like it flipped Jim to a hard no one Sunday when he came on the show in place of Mayor Allers, and then it led to the thing being withdrawn. I mean, and he reduced the project. I don't know if it's going to be enough to keep people happy that live here, but you are able to make change if there's a big enough audience, I think, and use the public comment. This is a big crowd here tonight.
It is, and I'm very excited. We actually expected maybe 15, 20 people. We've probably got over 50 here. So, let's give a round of applause to everyone who came. It's people like you that make a difference. And it's like Ed said, you got to go to the LPA and council meetings and use your use your voice. And that's where they really hear it and they really understand at that point in time. And
I have the email address to everybody on council.
yeah,
Council and LPA right here.
yeah. So again, everyone, I want to thank everyone for coming out. We've got some food up there still, and let's get some cocktails and do a little bit of mingling.
All right. Thank you all for coming. We'll see you tomorrow at 4:00 at Hibiscus for a ribbon cutting.